So, what we're seeing, what I've noticed now, the last couple of years, I don't know if it's the same everywhere else in the world, but it is in the UK. There's certain demographics of the population that traditionally had been mistreated, had been victimised, whether that be because they were women and men, the opposite sex, had all the power, or because they were denied opportunities or treated unfairly by the law, by society, because they had the wrong colour skin, or because they were the wrong religion, or maybe just even children very young, because they're weak, they've been victimised, and the perpetrator had gotten away with it. And we don't have a great history. I don't mean this country, I mean this species. The one demographic in our species that's sort of strong has sort of always found ways of victimising those weaker than he is, which of course is wrong. And I hope that anyone listening, watching, would agree with that. Children, women, minority people, religious minorities being mistreated for no good reason, just because they're different or just because they're weak, was always unacceptable. So we came from a place there which was wrong, which needed to be stopped. And happily, over the last 30, I'd say to 35 years, there's been a big change, there's been a lot of work done. Of course, there's been people addressing that for longer than that, but especially to my mind, for the last 30 to 35 years is the period of time when mostly we've seen the biggest changes in the way that those weaker demographics of our species, our culture, our society have the universe, the environment has been made much safer for them, which is right. But what I've noticed now is those same demographics, from the moment they've come into the world, this is only modern generations, newer generations, there are probably still generations of people represented by those demographics, or who represent those demographics, who have come from a time before it was safer for them, who have been victimised and who are still damaged and broken from those experiences. But modern generations of those weaker demographics now, since the moment they've come into the world, have found it so easy. They found opportunities given to them, handed to them. They found that they've been treated unfairly still by law and by culture, but in the opposite way, where they'd been getting away from things, or they'd been given things that more than they'd earn or whatever. But what's happening now is, in our environment especially, I've noticed the country's just opening its legs for those weaker demographics. So making it a safer and a fairer place is absolutely the right thing to do, but it's gone past that point and it's carried its momentum on. It's gone to a new place now, which is also wrong. I'm not going to compare it to how it used to be when they were victimised because they were weak and say that it's as wrong. I'm not going to make such determinations. It's probably not as wrong as that, but it's still equally wrong, because they're still weak. Only they're weak because now they've never had to develop their character. They've never had to try. They've never had to learn to be strong. They've never had to compete fairly for opportunities because they've been handed to them. The moment you take a demographic of society and you tell them they're going to have whatever they want whether they can earn it or not, whether they can take it or not, whether they can compete for it or not. The moment you tell them that they get a free ride, they get a free pass, that they don't have to pay, the moment you do that, that demographic of society, then it changes. It becomes dishonest, it becomes ignorant, it becomes lazy, as well as a whole bunch of other things. And this is built around an idea which is as old as time itself, which is that there is no human, no one, who, given power, wouldn't be corrupted by it. And the more power you're given, the more it corrupts. Which of course is true, because that's the nature of humans. So what's happening now is those weaker demographics of society, they're given so much for nothing, for free, that from the moment they come into the world, it's just such an easy ride. And it's not any good for them. This is terrible for those people, because they're so weak, because they've never had to develop their character. They've never had an opportunity, a chance to develop, to strengthen their character, because they've never come up against any struggle, any hardship. So it's not helping them. If this environment changes someday, which I suspect it will, I predict that the next 10 to 15 years the UK is going to change a lot. And if those demographics particularly find that it's no longer the free pass, the free ride, the open door that it's usually been in their life, they are not going to be able to adjust, because they have never had an opportunity to develop, to strengthen their personality, their character. They have never overcome anything. So they wouldn't know how to. Or if they ever left this environment and went to another environment which is less biased in their favour, less accommodating towards them, they'd be destroyed by it. And what we see now is those demographics of our society are still just as weak. But now they have less determination, less strength than they used to have, and less honesty. And this is because they've never had to compete for anything, they've never had to earn anything, work for anything. But also, because it's been so easy for them, as I said, you take any demographic of society and you say, here's a free ride, here's an open door, you're going to bring the worst features of that person's character out, not the virtues to which we should all be aspiring. And you can see now in any public place in this country, you walk around, you can see it's the weaker demographics of people who have the worst attitude towards other people around them. And actually, look, I've never been a big fan of other white heterosexual men. I've clashed with many of them many times, but I have noticed, to their credit, a change in them in the last 20 years, I'd say, where they've become more tolerable, they've become more reasonable. You're always going to have your assholes in any demographic, believe me. You can see that yourself, be honest about that, you can see that yourself. But the white heterosexual British male has changed, to his credit, and I think they are now become far more tolerant of others' demographics than any of those other demographics are towards him or towards each other. Just an observation for today. Let me know in the comments if you have stories to either challenge what I've said, or that you agree with it because you've seen such things.